Hi, Evolve and Ascend. It's Jen. It's been a few days since I've done an Instagram live, so I wanted to hop on today and check in, see how you're all doing, and just have a chat. So something I really enjoyed in the last few lives that I've done is to pull cards for you all. So usually we start with a topic, then I pull some cards, then maybe we read from a book. We can do all of the things, but I really wanted to see how you're all feeling first and foremost. So, hi, happy Monday. It's felt very weird since daylight savings kicked in. I don't know about you, but my whole entire relationship to time has felt really off. And it's kind of taken a little bit to catch up on that adjustment. So beyond that, between the election and everything going on in the world, time has felt really weird. And all the world is a statue and really just actors in it. The fourth wall is catching yourself in your act and knowing you can act. Yes. Shakespeare. All the world's a stage and we're merely actors. Absolutely. So interestingly enough, talking about stage and performance, one of the books that I pulled that I thought maybe we could talk about tonight is this book. It's called The Book of Symbols. I actually got it 2 years ago now when I went to see the Hilma af Klint exhibit at the Guggenheim Museum, which was an incredible exhibit. If you're not familiar with the work of Hilma af Klint, I highly recommend researching her. We did an article about it on Evolve and Ascend, so if you Google Hilma af Klint, Evolve and Ascend, you can see about it. But this woman was so beyond her time, and her paintings were these alchemical transmissions that really are activating in a deep way. I'd say a lot of the philosophical influence she had on her work could probably lean towards theosophy, if you wanted to put it into a container. But it's amazing. It's mind-blowing. And I got this book at the museum because the world of symbol is what our world is riddled with, right? If we didn't have written language, we'd be walking around making all these weird mouth sounds that are really interesting, but our written language is what allows us to further communicate ideas. And really, what is written language but symbol? So the subconscious mind really speaks in symbol and understands symbol, and our world is governed by symbols. So whether that's the logos we see every day, the colors that we see, there's so many hidden symbols all around us, including, look, I'm wearing this shirt with crucifixes on it. I'm not a Christian, but I love the cross as an alchemical symbol. So I figured we could talk about symbolism, pull some cards, and then, go from there. I didn't really have much of a plan. I was just feeling good and wanted to say hi to you all. So, I have a big smile. Hi. So I figure, some of the things that have been fun that we did when I was doing lives reading from the Tao Te Ching is if you all want to pick a number and I can pull a page and we can read from it. Hey Marnie, so good to see you. We could pick a number from a page, I could read from it, and then we can discuss it and unpack it. Or I could just pick randomly. This might be a good one to start with. I just opened to a random page, and the one that I got was the owl, which the owls are not what they seem. There's a lot of esoteric symbolism in the owl. The owl is wise. The owl is a very common, familiar spirit. If you are a Harry Potter fan, you'll know Hedwig was Harry Potter's familiar. All right, so we'll do 371. But we'll start with the owl. So each of these passages is a little bit long, but I read fast. So if there's a 177 at some point, cool. We got that too. So I'll start with a read. If you want to discuss what owl means to you at all, feel free to chime in. And then we'll just flow with tonight's conversation. So Owl. So the earliest rendering of an owl is about 30,000 years old and appears on a limestone wall of the Chauvet Cave in southern France. With its ear tufts, rough face, and vertically barred body, the image strongly suggests that the large eagle owl that was common at the time on the Eurasian continent. These owls are the great raptors of the night, as eagles are of the day, with large eyes evolved for acute perception in near darkness, ears that can locate the rustle of rodent in total darkness, and wings softly feathered at the tips to be silent in flight. They quietly await their prey, descend without warning, and seize it with uncanny suddenness and finality. Their far-reaching sonorous oohoo or oohoo, with emphasis on the first symbol, from which the species' imaginative German name oohoo is derived, has a melancholy, haunting sound, and their giggling, laughing, growling, and rattling and sexual communication evoke a magical half-human quality. Hunters of the night, owls are rarely seen by day, but when they are, they seem to stare at us with human intensity and concentrated attention. I'm glad it's soothing. I've been told I have a good soothing voice, so if you're just tuning in to listen or tuning out to just relax, hopefully that can do that for you. So owls have an extremely keen vision provided by eyes set in bony sockets that cannot move. Their heads compensate by being able to turn more than 240 degrees in either direction, reversing so swiftly some observers has had the illusion of being followed in a complete circle. Well disguised by their plumage and their natural habitats, they do not generally pursue their prey from afar, often locating themselves on a nearby branch or perch, while waiting to swoop down when they see or hear small animals below. So, I mean, I don't really want to continue reading this because this feels like it's just like an encyclopedia entry of an owl. I was hoping it was going to be more of like an esoteric thing for you all. But anyway, so like here are some symbols of the owl. So I think with some of these, since I'm such a fast reader, what we can do is, I'll tell you what it is. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes. We can talk about if it's meaningful to you. How does that sound? Because this is really long and it feels like an owl history lesson, and I don't know if that's the best use of anybody's time. So Clown Devil Boy. Clown Devil Boy, what is your name? Feels weird to call you Clown Devil Boy. 3 is the page that you said. 3 is the introduction, so I need a different number. 71. 71. Let's see what 71 has to say. It's kind of fun to divine with the books, because this one especially. 71. All right, so the passage that's on 71 is about lightning. So, if we're oracling with the book, perhaps there is a quiet before the storm happening in your life. So lightning, from an esoteric standpoint, so if you're familiar with Tibetan Buddhism at all, there's something called a dorje, and a dorje is like the thunderbolt by which Padmasambhava brought Buddhism to the Asian continents. It's D-O-R-J-E. And Padmasambhava was like the second Buddha. So, I mean, it came in a thunderbolt, but if you look at like lightning as something from like esoteric to unpack and sit with. So if whoever, who chose 71? Meredith chose 71. So if we're going to look at this as a book oracle, which I think this is what I'm going to pivot to do, where can you look to see the interconnected pattern in your life right now that needs to be disrupted? Is there a storm on the horizon? The other thing about a lightning bolt from an esoteric standpoint is that a lightning bolt is a fractal, and nature grows in fractal patterns. If you look at the veins under your arms, if you look at the way the rivers grow, or the rivers are in the earth, the way that the land moves, the way that the mountains kind of crack, they're all fractal, but they're all connected. So it's a brokenness, but it's still a connection to that brokenness. So what's coming up in your life right now that needs to kind of be disrupted, to see an interconnected pattern and to get enlightenment through it? The 2 different images that they chose here, which is interesting. So there's this picture here, which is representing lightning. This is a sudden, vigorous, dangerous lightning in the essence of creator gods like Baal, the god of ancient Canaan. He holds the lightning spear or thunderbolt with his left hand. In his right hand he brandishes a mace. But isn't that interesting? So to talk about like Padmasambhava brought Buddhism to Tibet and Asian countries with a thunderbolt. And then you have something from Syria, the Canaan god holding the thunderbolt. It's interesting how everything connects. So that in itself is a fractal, right? What is the next page that we have? 71 and Marnie, 177. You still here with me, Marnie? 177. This book is beautiful. So if you're just tuning in, we're looking for symbolism and talking about the book of symbols, unpacking some of the pages that we choose. So Marnie, you got a pomegranate. So I'm curious what they actually have to say about it. So there are a lot of pomegranates in the tarot. So like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you'll notice there's pomegranate symbolism in some of the cards. So what does it have to say about here? So the pomegranate is actually associated with the underworld and the mysteries of the death, conception, and rebirth of vegetation personified by young men and maidens. Pomegranate seeds and blood-colored flesh were emblematic of the eternal renewal of the life of the world in which the human initiate might also participate. That's a powerful page that you picked, Marnie. So I'll continue reading because this one is actually a little more esoteric than my owl history that I was sharing with you all. The pomegranate was sacred to Hades, who seized Persephone, the daughter of the grain goddess Demeter, into the land of the dead. When Demeter in grief withheld the grain from the earth, Zeus agreed to have Persephone return to her mother. But Hades gave the maiden a single sweet pomegranate seed, which meant that she must spend a third of the year with him as his spouse and the queen of the dead. The pomegranate played a part in the Eleusinian mysteries, honoring the two goddesses as the feminine source and continuity of life, and also in the phallic Dionysian Hola festival and Thesmorphia. In some rites, the initiate was allowed to eat nothing except the seeds of the pomegranate. In others, the eating of the fruit was forbidden. As a votive offering to the subterranean aspect of the great goddess in particular, the pomegranate suggests, in a psychological sense, the bitter depths and majestic forces of the unconscious encountered in the taking of the fertile, dreadful seeds of the self. That's powerful. Damn. Owl, lightning, pomegranate. Yeah, how's that for an oracle? Marnie, without giving too much away, I'd say that's pretty fucking spot on. Yeah. A theme of this year for many of us that have been traversing 2020 and all of the craziness that it's brought has been death. And it can be in a literal sense, it can be a metaphorical sense, but death of the familiar is a big theme of this year. All of what we thought we knew, all of our creature comforts, everything's been flipped upside down. And it's hard to see the forest through the trees when we're still deep in the woods of uncertainty. But I really like this metaphor of the pomegranate as a temporary phase of death before rebirth. Seasons change. In order for seasons to change, things die. The leaves fall off the trees, only for new leaves to come again in the spring. But in that seasonal change, it becomes cold and bitter and decayed before the warmth returns. So looking at the pomegranate as a metaphor for the renewal of life, I think that could be something interesting for us to hold on to. Owl wisdom, lightning fractals, everything connects. Pomegranate renewal. We take hope where we can get it, right? And one of the other things that has happened a lot in this year, which I'm really grateful for, has been a revelation of the true character of things. And, you know, I've posted this facetious meme about like spiritual red flags and what to look out for. And I know some people may have been triggered, and I wasn't sharing that to offend anybody, but it was definitely tongue-in-cheek and self-deprecating, because having been in this space for the last 8 years, I've like encountered almost everybody on that. And I use words like hold space and ceremony and all that stuff. So I mean, you got to poke fun at yourself too. But something that I'm really grateful for this year is the revelation of the toxicity within the spiritual space, because it is riddled in toxicity. It is riddled in gaslighting. It is riddled in spiritual bypass. And all this nonsense talk of like, you know, just light work, whatever, buy my ClickFunnels. I think that can be its own distraction, its own labyrinth, its own really confusing space that leaves you feeling like, do I need to buy another course? Do I need to go on another retreat? Do I need to wear this t-shirt, buy this crystal, do this thing? And it's like, okay, you can do all those things, but ultimately, if you're not emerging from it feeling more sovereign and secure in who you are, then it's probably not worth your time or money. Because whatever you're reading, whatever you're doing, whatever you're participating in, the ultimate goal should be liberation from anything other than like your own self, to be able to trust in your own gut, to trust in your own intuition. Like, I am definitely a spiritual anarchist, no masters, no slaves. And that's something that I'd inspire for people that I talk to on here to really connect to as well, is that to learn as much as you possibly can, to take in as much as you can, to have experiences so that you can see, but ultimately you have yourself to rely on. So spend your time focusing on tools that can teach you to renew, restore, and find strength within yourself. There's no guru. Meet Buddha on the side of the road, kill him. And yeah. So, pomegranate. What is the next number? We got, after 177, and Adam is Clown Double Boy. Nice to meet you, Adam. 27. Let's see what 27 is. And it's interesting to see how they'll all connect. Moon. Hey. That's a powerful one. So, I mean, okay, let's read this poem that it says about the moon. I love the moon as an archetype. It's a feminine force. So, you know, this in alchemy, sun is more like masculine and lunar is feminine. So the masculine, like beyond any gender binary, it's more about like logic and science and binary thinking, zeros and ones, putting like a plan to action. But then you think like feminine consciousness is more creative, mystical, dreamy, intuitive, flowy. So what do they say about the moon? I'm going to read this poem. So it says, I was a stranger on earth, stepping on the moon. I began the gay pilgrimage to new Jerusalems and foreign galaxies. Heat, cold, craters of silence, the sea of tranquility rolling on the shores of entropy and beyond. The intelligence of the stars. Stanley Kunitz, The Flight of Apollo. They actually have 3 poems. I thought this was all just one. Mother the Moon is dancing in the courtyard of the dead. Federico Garcia Lorca, Dance of the Moon in Santiago. And the final one is, not a soul ever exists in my hut. Not a soul ever visits my hut except the friendly light of the moon peeping through the woods. So one of my favorite quotes about the moon, actually too, is that the moon reminds us that even in our phases, we are still whole. So I feel like all of these passages are building off one another. So wherever you are on your spiritual path, wherever you're feeling right now, the only permanence is impermanence. Everything that you go through is temporary. Every passage of an age is just a passage through a phase. And the moon is there to remind us of that. That even when we may feel less than, maybe we don't feel in our full lunation, We are still a bright, beautiful, celestial object that is moving through time and space and serves a purpose. And every phase has its own wisdom within it too. So if you look at the metaphor within that, it doesn't have to be anything witchy. Like if you just want to live a more like artful, imaginative life, connecting to archetypes as a way to understand yourself, this is a way to do that. You can make every practice your own. But looking to the moon as like as above, so below, as within, so without. It's like when we have a full moon, what is coming to the surface? What can I shine a light on? How can I tap into my full expression of self? Or we think of like the new moon is shrouded in darkness. So what are the seeds that I can plant so that I can cultivate deeper intention, tend to my garden of earthly delights? Everything's metaphor. So moon, wherever you are today, if you need a message about the moon as an archetypal force to connect to, I would say to just remember that even through a phase, you're still whole. And whether you're male, female, non-binary, wherever you fall on like the spectrum of self, looking at the moon like in the feminine aspect of consciousness really just means like connecting deeper to your intuition, connecting deeper to your dreams, finding space of flow. I've been talking a lot of... Ooh, my cat just knocked something over. Talk about flowing. We've been talking a lot about the Tao and reconciling paradox, and sometimes to do more, you have to do less. And that's so hard. And I think that's like a common problem too with like a lot of the new age bullshit, like The Secret. Like I'm holding so hard to my manifestations and like I just have to be this, it has to look this way, I have to be driving the car, there's something to be said of just releasing into the now. Like my friend Corey Allen says, release into now. Now is the way. It's a great book, by the way. Corey Allen is a really good friend. I share his quotes on here from time to time. He has a podcast called The Astral Hustle, and he embodies that beautiful, perfect sense of humor and Taoism and living in the moment and reconciling the paradox. But flow, baby. Sometimes less is more. And sometimes holding so tightly to an idea or concept or like what you think you want, it actually lets go of the space for what you actually could get instead. And I'll give you an example. So something that I had been personally struggling with, I turned 35 in April, and I've been single for a while, and it's kind of weird to like wake up and be like, oh, I'm 35, I'm not married, I don't have kids. The next 5 years from now, it's like 40. Is it ever going to happen? And I like allowed myself to kind of get into like this sadness of, well, fuck it. Everything's terrible. I'm just going to be alone forever. And I kind of like just sat into that. But something happens when you can just like maybe just stop thinking about all these expectations and things and goalposts that society has put up for you, and then just release into the now and see what comes that leaves space for surprise. You know, so it's not necessarily about like finding something to complete you. It's about realizing like, wow, I can just flow and let life surprise me and find love as not just like this thing I need to attain, this person I need to have, but it's a person that I'd like to be, whether that's being a really good friend, a great collaborator, a better artist. To sink into a sadness over societal expectation really just limits what we could experience when we just let go and flow and find the surprise. And and that's the moon reminding us that even in those moments of transition and ebb and flow, you're still completely whole. You're completely whole as you are. So the moon. So that's that. Every little passage that we flip through is going to be a little Dharma talk. So we left off at 27. Let's see what the next number we have to flip through here. But I feel like, so we have owl, lightning, pomegranate, moon. Sounds like we're almost building a poem through this. Did we do 133? I think we did, right? It's hard to keep track. 133. Nope, we didn't do 133. So, 133 was the next page that we got. My name is Jen. Hey, Matt. Hi. Oh my God, I was talking about you today with Mike Brank, Mikeadelic. We want to get the gang back together for Isolation Tank. Maybe do a Friendsgiving episode. So, the next one we got is the oak tree. So we talked about how lightning's a fractal. So lightning comes down, right? The tree grows up and they grow in these fractal patterns. So we're going to look at the meta of this. So we're talking about wisdom, rebirth, death, our phases. And I would look to the oak tree as strength. So how do we find strength through all of this? How do we find grounding? How do we continue to reach up to the heavens for our greatest hopes and dreams, but keep our feet on the ground and stay planted in our strength, to be able to be a rock and not roll? Again, I'll tie everything into this year. This year has been a really tough time of staying strong in the face of adversity. It's so easy to become unbalanced when nobody knows what the fuck is going on. We have all these ideas that we know what's going on, but I don't think anybody does. And that can be really disorienting. But, so I was just saying hi to my friend Matt, Ziana Archive, who's one of my homies for a really long time. But I was saying I just had a conversation with my dear friend Mike Brancatelli, who has a podcast called Mikeadelic. And Mike is he's just amazing. He's so funny and wonderful, and his podcast is great. So if you're a podcaster and looking for podcast content, I highly recommend it. But the last episode we did together, we were talking about leaning into the space of it's okay to not know, and there's actually a strength in not knowing. Because you cling so deeply to an idea of truth. They say it in the Kabbalion, all truth are but half-truths, every truth is half false. I'll repeat myself here. There's a lot of Jenisms and esoteric quotes that I like a lot that I feel are worth repeating. So if you're a return visitor or just coming in for the first time, I apologize if I sound like a broken record. But truth is nebulous. And if we get so attached to trying to find the truth of a thing, we get lost in the moment. And there's a strength in surrendering to I don't know fully. I can be here. I can have this idea. I can have that idea. I can hold two conflicting things at once and still be strong in it. And still trying to look up at the interconnectedness of all things, the fractal designs of nature in and of itself. But to be okay to just be centered. Okay. Whatever it may be, what can I do now? How can I be a good friend? How can I be a good creative? How can I be a good partner, lover, mother, father, sister, brother, employee, collaborator, colleague? How can I be here now, like Ram Dass says, and not future trip so hard or get too lost in narratives that the world is being run by reptilian shape-shifting baby eaters, or they want to fucking coronavirus was created by 5G. There's so many things that the deeper you dig, the dirtier it'll get. And you can get lost in a complete cycle of oh my God, I don't even want to leave the house. If that was my logic right now, I wouldn't even be on Instagram Live, because I think the government is going to come after me with a black helicopter right now because I'm even talking about this stuff. There comes a point where you just say, okay, I'm closing the laptop and I just want to be with people that I love and laugh a little bit and think about what I can do and create right now to just find any little breadcrumb of happiness and strength, even in uncertainty. So the oak tree, for me, that's what it would represent, is strength. So I'll read a little bit from what it says here about the oak tree. Thanks, Marnie. Feeling good. So here it says, symbolically as well as physically, the oak continues to extend its branches to bear new fruit. In the alchemical fairy tale, the spirit in the bottle, the dark mercurial spirit of transformation, is hidden in the roots of the oak tree. Jung found this image of the treasure-containing oak to be a beautiful evocation of the self, the unconscious core of the personality, a royal figure among all the other continents of the unconscious. Oh, guys, I think I need glasses, which is like crazy. I'm like reading this like, so like the oak whose roots extend into the mineral realm, the self is rooted in the chemical elements of the body and extends in a psychological sense to infinite heights and depths. As a mature oak unfolds from an acorn, so does psychic individuality unfold from small intimation of self that, brought into consciousness, grows and gives leaf over time to a multiplicity of images. Mirroring the oak's solidarity, the self is the perduring center that can withstand the fiery outbursts of affect and psychic flooding. Oak transports and humbles, so perfectly is imperial nature embodied in its form. Damn. As above, so below. Exactly. The roots that reach down to hell. Balance, right? The more we know, like, it's like that moment when you realize there is no spoon and you have like your matrix cracking moment. Red pill, blue pill, all that stuff, all those metaphors, Plato's allegory of the cave. When you step out and look beyond and see just how complex and complicated, vast, infinite all these things are, it can be really overwhelming. But if you just can learn to take it in and rely on your senses and just breathe, there's strength in that. Thank you. You're amazing. You're all amazing. I love doing these and connecting with everybody. You know, having this platform for the last 7 years, it's nice that technology has emerged to a point where we can interact and interface in this way. You know, as much as we want to bastardize technology. And I haven't watched The Social Dilemma because I'm honestly afraid. And I know that data is mined as a natural human resource. But in the same token, again, balance and strength, if it weren't for technologies like this, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I wouldn't be reaching you in the palm of your hand. A person that like you've never met before maybe here is offering a little passage from a book that could offer perspective for the rest of your week or the rest of your night. So with everything, it's balance and discernment, and there's strength in that. So we're 133 was the last page. What came after 133? Was there another number after that? 133. No, I can't see another one unless it's gone. Anybody else want to pull a number? A number from, I mean, there's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of pages in this. 222. All right, Jake. 222. I've been seeing 222 a lot lately. Some of these are really funny. All right, 222. The spider. Spider. 222, 9, and 27. I think we already did 27. So this is just an image on page 222 is this spider. It's really funny looking, actually. We look at its face. But let's see. What does it say about the spider? There's so many great creation stories with the spider, like in the Hopi tradition. Oh, amazing. Well, you got what you needed then, Jake, right? Let's see. I'll pull from here. So it says here, like a latticed window whose center looks on eternity, the spider's web intimates the instinctual patterns of behavior out of which psyche's dark and luminous agency is felt. Mythically identifying with the spider with divine creator, culture hero, trickster, and benefactor. In a Hopi creation story, Grandmother Spider lives in an underground kiva that mimics the trapdoor spider's dwelling and recalls the Hopi's emergence from the underworld. A Navajo tale describes Spider-Woman lodging behind the hero's ear, whispering secret advice and mediating his transit between the physical and subtle dimensions, all within life's encompassing web. The Spider Anasazi of West African tradition is an unscrupulous buffoon, but also a trickster that outwits larger creatures such as the elephant or lion. The spider's ever-renewed wheel-like web has been compared to the radiating sun. In Hindu myth, the veiled Maya is the spinning world of illusion out of her substance and drawing it back in. Yeah, so lightning connects, trees connects, the webs that we weave. This spider, it's incredible how something so tiny can feel so terrifying. In nature, it seems like some of the smaller creatures have more of like potent poison. They say that like smaller scorpions, poison stings deeper. But if you think of like how tiny a spider is and how beautiful this web of creation that they create through what they ingest and digest and push back out, that could be another meta-narrative for us, right? What webs are we spinning with our words? What worlds are we creating with our words? What tiny little pieces of impact are actually weaving together a bigger picture? So the spider, she's special, terrifying and beautiful all at once, like life. Dude, that sounds like Gaia speaking to you through plant medicine. Yeah, I haven't done plant medicine in a year. 9. Ashley says 9. And I'll do a few more, pull some Amenti cards, and then I'll pop off. Excuse me. Sorry. Misha loves to bark whenever. He doesn't bark all day, and then all of a sudden he knows I'm on a live and I bark. 9, unfortunately, is just the about the author section. 27. 27 is the moon. We already did that one. All right, so I'm going to put this down for now. I'll pull cards for 3 people. So if you'd like some Amenti cards pulled for you, I'll do that for the first 3 that comment, and then I'm going to sign off. And I thought about this talk, maybe talking about like creativity and the power of the artist in times of transition. So that could be a next future talk, but after I'm done broadcasting, if you have suggestions for future talks, please let me know. I'm here and I'm listening. I love hearing your suggestions. Okay. So Witchy AF, what is your name? Dudu also, what is your name? So you two, one more. But yeah, I've been drawing a little bit more than I used to, and it's a really good creative outlet, and I don't really care. Like, I'm not selling these prints. They're just for my own thing. So maybe a talk about creativity and the role of an artist in times of transition could be cool. But again, this is the Book of Symbols by Taschen. The Book of Symbols. I recommend it. It's awesome. It's a great, great book. Okay, so Alicia, Marnie, and Dudu also. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So I'm gonna pull a card for you 3, and then I'm gonna sign off. And please comment and let me know what you'd like to talk about in a few days. No, Marnie. Dudu. Hi, Dudu. All right. So, Alicia, Dudu, and then Marnie. Alicia. So this is the card that we got for you. I affirm that all life is sacred. I affirm that all life is sacred. So she's actually the alchemist card from this deck. This deck is called the Amenti Oracle, which I'm the author of, and it was illustrated by my dear, dear friend, Natalie Miller, who's an amazing artist, creative human. We worked in collaboration on this project. So it's the Feather Heart deck. So this deck is based off of the 42 ideals of Ma'at, or Mayet, depending on how you pronounce it. But Ma'at is the feather by which your heart is weighed with on the scales in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So if your heart is as light as your feather, you can pass through to the next life. So these 42 ideals are basically the tenets that you would have said to, like, I've lived my life with a feather heart. So I affirm all life is sacred is the alchemist card of the deck. And she, if you see, we have the circle, the square, and the triangle filled with alchemical symbols and different herbs behind her. And the part of the passage that sticks out so much for me is that nature's potions and poisons are equally potent. So medicine is an interesting thing, because bitter medicine can have a sweetness, and sweet medicine can have a bitterness. Potions and poisons are equally potent. Salt and sugar is distinguishable only in taste, not necessarily by touch or sight. So sometimes in life we are given things that are heavy, hard, tragic, traumatizing, tough. But with the lens of an alchemist, we can transmute it. Alchemy is the transmutation of base metal into gold. And that's a really potent metaphor. Well, although I do know alchemists that have done this before, but if you look at it metaphorically, how can we transmute the heavy moments in our life into alchemical gold? And that is through discernment. That is through mindfulness. That is through self-inquiry and taking time to just ask, what is this here to teach me? How can I learn? And how can I emerge even better from the hardship that I've traversed, using the wisdom of an alchemist? So if that resonates with you, this is your card. I affirm that all life is sacred. And why she's the alchemist, for I affirm that all life is sacred, because all life is all life is all life. And that could be from the realm of the tiny spider with the potent poison, the little scorpion with the potent poison, to the eagle flying high in the sky to remind you of how strong you are and that you're capable of exercising your wings in time. Everything connects. The web is connected. All life is sacred, even the harder stuff. All right, now Dudu, and then Marnie, and then I hope that resonated and was helpful. And the difference between oracle cards and tarot cards, if you don't know, is that tarot cards are 72 cards, which are the major and minor arcana, basically the blueprint of the soul, and to form elements, archetypes, characters you meet along the path. And oracle cards are more like Rorschach tests, like an ink blot test. It's like seeing something that, one person may see as a butterfly, another person may see as a pelvis. That's the beauty of oracle cards, is that I may see something and it works for me, but if you're working out on your own, you can see something else. So I do good. I do good. So I love her. She's a good one. She's doing good. So again, a lot of New Age rhetoric is kind of this toxic idea that in order to receive, you have to give. There's a quid pro quo of things. I did this, so I should get that. I thought this, so now I should attract that. I vibrated here, so why isn't this coming into my reality? This push-pull. I give, I get, I give, I get, I give, I get. But sometimes it's really important to just do for the sake of doing, with no expectation, and again, creating space for things to surprise you. So I do good. Where are there areas in your life that, to maybe transcend whatever it is that you're going through, you can give to others? Oh, Gaia. Hi, my girlfriend, my Miss Honey. So good to see you. Where is there an area of your life where you can give good to others, do good for others, just with no expectation other than it just being to help others on the path. There might be somebody in your life that needs a phone call or a check-in or how are you? Putting the ego aside and reaching out to maybe somebody you haven't talked to in a really long time. Where can you do good, not with an expectation of anything in return, but just to do good for goodness sake? Sometimes it's tough to hear that stuff. It can be triggering to be like, well, I don't want to. But everything does come back, you know? Even in this, like, not wanting to give quid pro quo, if you do just to do, you still are going to get it back. It's still like you're putting a pebble in the collective pond, and the ripple effect. So goodness given is goodness received. It's just letting go of expectation of how you may receive it. I hope that makes sense. I miss you, Gaia. I would love to catch up soon. Maybe we can do Instagram Live together. I would love to do one with you. I think it would be really fun to have you pull cards, maybe like pull from your deck, I can pull from my deck. Every tuning in, Gaia Venus Adams is fucking bomb. She's the best. Thank you. I'm actually an Aries. Can be very fiery, but I have a good heart. So Marnie, this is going to be my last card and then I'm going to sign off. But again, if you have any suggestions for future broadcasts, please comment. I'm gonna book something with Gaia because she's fucking amazing, and I think that would be a really fun one to do. So Gaia, I'm gonna slide into your DMs probably tomorrow and get something set up. So Marnie, I honor virtue. This is the card we got. I honor virtue. Did we get this last time? I think we did. One of the last pulls was I honor virtue. So, oh wait, is her lips getting blurred? It's so weird. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. What is your name, Dragon Rose? I love everybody's like handles, but it's always nice to say hi by name. So I honor virtue. In the crumbling of the things that we once had, were, experienced. Is life speak with sincerity? Okay. But somebody got I honor virtue. This is interesting. Sue. Hi, Sue. In the crumbling of what once was, in those ashes, like a phoenix, you can rise. And to honor the virtues within yourself is to build from a new, strong spiritual foundation. So virtue as a verb, as an action, as an embodiment is really finding a space of balance within yourself. I've shared this before. I'll share it again to those tuning in. So in chematology, which is an Egyptian mystery school, before Egypt was called Egypt, it was called Chem, which meant the land of the black earth. So alchemy and chemistry come from Chem, which is essentially like the cradle of civilization. And in chematology, they talk about the different mysteries of that time, the relationship of the Neteru, the Neters and Neteru, which are basically the Egyptians' gods and goddesses. That word loosely translates to force of nature. So a Neter, like in Hinduism, is like an avatar, is basically like an embodiment of the Godhead. So, you know, if you look in Egyptian paintings or hieroglyphics, like all the different gods and goddesses have different attributes and aspects to them. Namely, like if you look at Osiris, Osiris is often depicted as green, and some believe he was depicted as green because he was cut into pieces by his jealous brother Set, and Isis put him together and then he resurrected, so he's green because he's essentially like a zombie. But really, in chematology, they say the reason why Osiris is green is because he's closest to nature. He's closest to source. He's the closest to the Godhead. So when you think of green, also represents the heart chakra. So chakra, sorry, I keep catching myself. It's actually pronounced chakra, not chakra. And I used to call it chakra all the time and was corrected. And now I really try hard not to say that wrong. But in utero, your heart forms before your brain. And the heart is this space of non-duality. There's no hemispheres in the heart. They're the ventricles that pump the blood in and out, but this heart is this whole space of non-duality. Then you get to the brain, and the brain is the space of like left, right, logic, intuition, masculine, feminine. Hyperspace exists in the heart because it's a space of non-duality. It's the space closest to nature. So Marnie, in honoring this card, take some time to appreciate your true nature, your heart, your beauty, and to reestablish a new foundation with what are your virtues, and to find strength in those. We are so hard on ourselves. We are so tough on ourselves. We are so self-deprecating. We can be our own worst enemies. I remember the first time I did ayahuasca, like, got all these like notes and everything, and this is like a truism because I think a lot of people will tap into this sometimes in meditation or whatever you're working with in an ineffable realm, is the idea of self-talk and the way that we talk to and treat ourselves. And if we were to step back and think about the way that we talk to and treat ourselves as if we were a baby, would we ever speak to a baby that way? Would we ever speak to a little child that way? When we think of some of the awful things we think about ourselves or talk to ourselves and don't take care of ourselves, would you ever do that if it were your child? So flip the script. Remother yourself. Reparent yourself, rechild yourself, speak to yourself as though you are still that little baby, because you are. You grow, your hair gets longer, body gets bigger, everything. It's still you, just with the forces of time and gravity. That inner child still is there. That inner child is still responding to your words and thoughts and ideas of yourself. But if you recalibrate and like from these ashes rise into a new strong foundation, portals of new opportunity emerge. And you can connect close to your alchemical gold, your own force of source. So honor that. And yeah, I love you, Marnie. And everybody, I love doing these. Again, I'm grateful that technology allows this. So maybe mining our data and feeding us ads for shit that we don't need, but it's also connecting us to beautiful human beings across the planet that otherwise I would never have the opportunity to. So, sacred balance. And anyhow, it's been great. I hope you all have a beautiful night. I'll probably be on again in a few days. Got to figure out programming for moving forward. If you didn't see it, I highly recommend too. One of the last Instagram lives I did was with my friend Mitra, who's an amazing spiritual teacher and author of a book called Insight Steps to Truth. That's on here for programming wise. But again, if you have ideas, comment and let me know. I love you. I hope you have a good night, and I appreciate every single one of you. Big love, hugs, and all the best.